Okay, you guys, hello everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Real Raw You podcast. Today we're talking with Lucia Giovannini. She's an international speaker, an author, the founder of Bless You International, and she has a new book, A Whole New Life. It's coming out soon, or it's recently come out. And I'm so excited to talk with her. She's a former model. She's been a doctor of psychology, and she just has all this amazing work behind her. And I'm really excited to talk with her about breath work and really let's dive into a whole new life and what it really takes to wake up to being all of us. As you know, that is what I love talking about. So, Lucia, what got you on this path to awakening? Just give us a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm super happy and excited to be here. So what brought me to this path? I think I started feeling this call when I was very, very young. Like I remember actually when I was a little girl, I felt this call, to do something to make this world a better place, but not just for us humans or for me personally or for my family, but the call was to, and still is actually, to make this world a better place also for the other species that are sharing this planet with us. So, I try to save any animal, like even ants and beetles, and any animal I would find. And I remember like having friends who used to pick up flowers, and I would say, no, the flower suffers, don't pick it up, just look at it. This kind of call has always been in me. But then of course when I grew up and I was like at college, I ended up being a model. And what started just by chance, it soon became a full-time career. So I kind of forgot my call, my mission, and I dived deeply into that world. And in the beginning it was fascinating. Like I used to earn a lot of money. I moved to Milan. I lived in a beautiful apartment. I traveled the world, etc., etc. I was married to a dashing man who was also a model himself. So I was totally full in that life. And I think I in a way, yeah, I forgot my call, and that's when pain started to appear in my life. Like even if apparently everything was super fine, but I started to feeling like empty inside, like my life had no meaning. I started feeling depressed, and of course I tried to numb that pain in any possible way. I started to work more, to be more busy, and I actually, by the age of 25, I had already started 3 companies in the fashion industry. And then that didn't work, so I started partying more, traveling more, eating more, and then not eating at all, trying to numb that pain, but nothing worked. And I would tell to myself that I didn't have clarity on what I needed. I didn't have clarity on what was happening to me. But in reality, it was not true. If I looked inside myself deep enough, I could understand that it was a soul calling. It was my soul calling to get back to my mission. But I did not want to look deep enough because it was too scary, because it would have meant, to leave everything. And so I resisted change for quite a few years, but my depression got worse and worse. So that's what got me back to this path, like it was pain and depression. And then one day I left everything behind. I left my marriage, I left my house to my ex-husband, I left my 3 companies without even asking a shares of money, which was quite stupid from my side. And I went back to my hometown. And I remember one Christmas Eve, I was in the streets of my hometown, Bologna, Italy, and I was alone because also my friends had abandoned me because they thought I'd gone crazy. And plus, with my new career as a spiritual coach, I was not doing very well. I was actually struggling to find participants to my workshops and sessions. So I was there on a winter, this wintry Christmas Eve, and I was alone, and I was looking around me, and all I could see were happy people, celebrating Christmas, like happy couples, happy families. And I was there, sad, alone, with no one to celebrate Christmas with. And I was almost broke because, of course, my savings were dwindling down.
Oh, I just lost audio.
Oh,
there you go. Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat anything?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Just the last sentence.
Yeah. And my savings also were dwindling down very fast. So I was there alone in this, Christmas Eve with no one to celebrate Christmas with. And I was sad. I was almost broke. I was alone. So I started questioning myself. And there is when I really had this glimpse of awakening, a small glimpse, just a small, feeling. And the feeling was that we are here on this planet actually to actualize our dreams, and our dreams are a gift from God or spirit. And the least we can do to give the favor back, to pay the favor back to God, is to try to manifest our dreams, to try to do something to bring about our dreams. And I was also, in that moment, I also understood that my focus was totally wrong, because in that moment, in the last month, I was focusing on what cost I was paying for the decision that I took, that I made. And the cost I was paying, of course, was enormous: money, friends, solitude, and so on and so forth. But what I didn't ask myself was what had been the cost of staying in a situation where, it wasn't, it didn't represent me anymore. What would have been the cost of staying in that easy life for my whole life, And so from there, I think it was the turning point for me. What really helped me to gain the courage to give my dreams another chance, and to go on. Yeah. And here I am, like 25, no, actually it's 28 years later.
I think that's a similar story to so many other people, that we just kind of let life take us away, and we don't actually say, is this what I really desire out of this life? Is this what I'm really asking for? And we do it so long, we don't realize that we can actually request of the universe to guide us and to be on this quest with us, and allow consciousness to support us to be our full expression, to be that calling that you said we can be. And I know that you use breath work and meditation. And what would you say are some of your biggest tools to help people make that transition when they've just been swept by life, and maybe life is piling down or on top of them? Like, what's the tools to help with that courageous leap?
Yeah, so I use a mixture of left brain and right brain methods, meaning I use coaching questions. I use the Access of Change model, which comes from my Whole New Life methodology. It actually originally comes from Neuro-Semantics or meta coaching, but then I applied it to my Whole New Life methodology. And so this is more left brain, meaning procedure and understanding. Okay, we talk about change like if it were an object, but change object is not an object is a process. So which are the phases of change? And so in which phase am I in right now, and what needs to be my next steps. So this kind of, because also I think that also the rational means I need, have like a sort of procedure steps so that the mind can relax in a way, can know, okay, what's the next step. And then I also use non-cognitive methodologies. Yeah, like
that's what this group is used to. Like just the weird questions, like, you have an awareness in your body or a pain in your body, and we're just like, what is it? And sometimes it's like, it's someone else's, or it's, it's a pain in the neck, which then goes to who or what's the pain in the neck, kind of weird. So we as well do both, but we're more on the right brain side.
Yeah. Well, I think that we need to use both, and then of course, depending on the person, there may be a preference. But ideally, when the two approaches are used in conjunction, are used together, then the results, in my experience at least, the results is even more powerful and lasts, more. So yeah, like for example, of course, breath work, as you said, and there are several kinds of breathing that I use, like I come from rebirthing and transformational breath and all that kind of experiences and trainings, but I also use a lot of pranayama because it depends on, on what I need and what the person needs. And also, of course, meditation, because the idea there, I think, so the idea for the left brain activities are to understand, so when the mind understands, then she can like calm down a little bit. The idea with the right brain approach is to develop courage and trust. So trust in the universe, trust in the process, knowing that we are always guided no matter what. Even when we think we are totally like in despair, I think we can't actually fall nowhere else rather than fall in the hands of God, Spirit, Buddha, Allah, however you want to call him or her, actually. So we fall in the hands of Spirit. So, and sometimes Spirit has to, move us from one situation to the other. Like, I like to use this example of the vase. If you have a plant in a vase, then once in a while you need to change the vase because the plant gets bigger and the roots get bigger, and if the plant needs to grow, you have to find a bigger vase. So sometimes we are like those plants, and in order for us to grow, Spirit needs to move us to a bigger vase. And so sometimes, our relationships or jobs or situations that we are so attached to because maybe they are, our comfort zone, need to be let go of. And if we don't take that decision, then it's the universe that takes that decision for us. And so in that moment, the best thing that we can do is just trust the process. And it's not easy because when you are in the middle of it, you just want to know that to have certainties, and there are no certainties in those moments. So it's kind of tricky. So develop the right brain activities, in my experience, are very helpful, like meditation, like affirmations, for example, breath work, just staying in nature. Another thing that I love so much and that I find so useful is just being nature. And like sitting under a tree and talking to Mother Earth, for example, and letting our pain, to Mother Earth, because Mother Earth supports us. She supports our physical body, our physical weight, but she also supports our emotional, body and our emotional pain. So those kind of activities. So the idea is to develop trust and to develop courage, because once you trust the process more, then it's easy to develop courage.
So trust first. I think that, in my process, one of the big things that I became aware of was that I had to create some spaciousness to kind of even hear and trust that the universe had my back. It seems like if I was just in it, and I have like a faster tempo, I think, than a lot of people. And if I would be in my tempo too fast, and my head would go with it or ahead of it, and I wouldn't take time to really be there and be present in it, it seemed that I didn't have access to as much of my intuition and instincts than I do now, because of those kind of activities, that getting quiet, that being with nature, meditation, conscious breathing. Those have been like the key tools, plus questioning, for me. Really asking questions and asking for what I desire really takes, that spaciousness needed to come first before I could have that trust. Okay. And then once you have the trust, you do have the courage. I love that. I love how you put that together linearly, because I never really thought of it that way. I mean, I knew the spaciousness for intuition, but I didn't get trust before courage. And that's really beautifully said. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I totally relate to that, because I have a very fast tempo as well.
Right.
So naturally my process goes, okay, universe, tell me what I need to do now.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to wait. Like, how they say, like, it all comes in perfect timing or whatever, and you're like, no, I'm going to figure out the title of this book now. And then chomp on it and chomp on it and chomp on it. And that's when you don't have access, when when that cognitive area of your frontal lobe just keeps going. It's like angels couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Exactly. So I know that's my temptation. That's my personal temptation. And I think that, the other beautiful thing about, doing personal development is that you come to know yourself a little bit. So I think that each of us has, some personal temptations, like even Jesus Christ had temptations, to be rich, to be famous, to help people, to be of use. So if he had temptation, we can have temptations too. So one of my personal temptation is really, to exactly as you perfectly said. Okay, I want to have this answer from universe now. Angels, speak to me now in a second. So and of course, then it doesn't happen. So I really need to slow down, and breathing is really helpful on that. And another thing I try to do is slow my movements. I mean, I don't do it because I have a very fast tempo, so I don't do it normally. But when I go into that hectic, mode, then I try to slow down my walk. I try to slow down my speech. So then my mind slows down a little bit. And then, of course, using breath work, when I use this technique, and I'm sure you use it, or you know it, because it's a classic of the pranayama, but when your exhale is double the inhale. So like I inhale 5, let's say, on a tempo of 5, on a count of 5, and I exhale on a count of 10. And I do like 7 minutes, sometimes 14 minutes of that. And that helps me to rebalance and slow down, because of course with that kind of breathing you stimulate the parasympathetic system, so the relaxation response, and it's much easier to slow down, because I naturally have a super fast tempo. So I would have, I would like everything to be done immediately, to be finished immediately, to be started immediately. So
right, with no effort whatsoever in between.
yeah. And that's another trap that I had to deal with, because normally we say, okay, if something is meant for you, then it will happen instantly, easily.
Which is a lie.
But that's not exactly. That's a lie, and that's a trap, by the way, because then you expect everything to be easy. Then you accept, oh, this didn't happen as I wanted, so it means that I am not, like when I started my career, as I just told you, it wasn't easy at the beginning. So in that moment, I could have thought, and I actually started to think like that. Oh, maybe I'm not meant to stop being a model. Maybe I'm meant to keep on being a model and just, you know, forget the spiritual part. But it was not true.
Mm-hmm.
I had to
I think
build
it's
my
important that we have these
muscles, to
conversations.
build my resilience. I had to build my,
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important,
yeah,
to tell, you know, look, there can be ease with it, but ease does not mean easy ever.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Ease really,
So
for me,
that,
means presence. You know, it's like, you know, taking down and doing what you said, that conscious slow movement. So you see where your body is existing in this world. And can you take us through like a practice or a meditation or a breath and meditation that would like open gateways and help the audience?
well, the practice, the breathing practice, I actually recommend to almost everybody, because actually this is a fast-paced society. So I think that the fast-paced thing affects, I mean, 90% of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So the practice I really recommend is this one I talked about. So let's imagine let's do it just for maybe a couple of minutes,
Sounds
okay?
good.
So I'm just going to explain it first, and then we do it just a couple of minutes. But already in a couple of minutes, you can see the difference, okay? And so the idea is that in a minute, we close our eyes and we start inhaling from our nose and trying to really take full inhale from the abdomen to the chest. And you count your inhale, whatever is comfortable for you. It may be you inhale on the count of 3, you inhale on the count of 4, just, I mean, whatever is comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you exhale through the nose, and you exhale on a double count. Like, for example, if you inhale was 3, you exhale 6. If you inhale was 4, you exhale 8, and so on and so forth. But the idea is to try and find your stable numbers with which you are comfortable. Like, it may be normally it's 4, 8, or 4, 8, or 5, 10 for people who are already in breathing, you know, doing breathing exercise for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So very easy. And of course, the trick is, there's 2 tricks here. So first trick, as I explained earlier, is that by doubling your exhale, you are stimulating the parasympathetic system, so the relaxation response. Mm-hmm. And the second trick is by focusing on counting your breath, you know, both inhale and exhale, the mind is more stable. Because otherwise what minds do even during meditation is that minds like to wander. They wander around, you know, like they go into the future, they go back into the past, they go to the other side of the world, they go to their holiday, to their favorite holiday place, and they wander. And then you continue.
I'm a huge fan of Emily Fletcher, who I don't know if you know her, but she is like, no, stop trying to clear your mind and have no thoughts. And I was like, well, there actually are probably brief, areas where I'll be like, just totally into my being. And that does happen. But she's so right. And I think that, that's everyone thinks that they do this wrong because they can't clear their mind. And have your mind focused on something like counting, it absolutely, then there at least is like less random stuff.
Exactly. Then the mind is steady, because the problem of the mind is that when it goes around, it's not steady, and so it's agitated. But when you focus the mind on the counting of the breath, and plus you're stimulating the parasympathetic system, it's 2 activities that actually are calming the mind. So it's the combination of those two activities together. But even just if you just count your breath, then you give the mind something to do, to focus on.
Right.
Because it's such an effort to, I've been, studying meditations with different monks. I live part of the time of my year in Thailand and the other in Bali. So I've been studying with several traditions. And when they say, okay, clear the mind, yes, okay, clear the mind. How? It's not that easy. I mean, there are some days, as you said, in which, okay, I manage, but most of the days, especially, I mean, if you are in a, like in the forest, if you are in a monastery, then it's easier. But try to clear the mind when you are in your everyday working place, like, okay, you wake up in the morning, you do your meditation, but then you have an appointment, and then another problem to solve, and then where does the mind go? It goes to your problem, to your work, it doesn't, so if you, it's not easy to clear. So, and then you feel frustrated and you say, oh, meditation is not for me, I can't manage, and then you give up. Instead, if you give the mind something to do, to count.
Yeah. I think it's, it's just important to say, for everyone's personal growth and self-love, that we like to, get ourselves out of doing these practices, right? We like to think that we can just go on with our life and not have any practices that keep us, that helps us distress. That we like to think that, and we like to lie to ourselves in that way. And, because it kind of gives us a way out always. So
I totally agree. And instead meditation, and it can be just this easy thing, just counting your breath. Like traditionally, this one is done in 7 slots of 7 minutes, but of course, I mean, and just 2 minutes, better than nothing. Just by committing to 2 minutes every morning, you start feeling the difference.
Right.
So we can try, if you want to, just use 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. I just interviewed the expert from Soma Breath. I don't know if you know him. And so, this audience has just been, introduced, and we were just off the chart breathing. I was just high on life. But, and I would like to talk to you about so much more in your book. So let's just do a few rounds just to get everyone present. And
yes, and just to teach the practice, and then of course then anyone can do it on their own pace. And so if you take a deep breath and then you close your eyes, and then on the next breathing you start counting your inhale, and it may be 1, 2, 3, 4, inhale, and then you exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you inhale again and count your inhale, and while you're at the top of the inhale, you exhale and you count double. And when you exhale, you can try really to exhale all the air. So the next inhale will be much easier and full. Okay, and you can finish this round with the last exhale. And when you are ready, you can slowly open your eyes.
I think it's so important just to mention that a few rounds of breath can change everything.
Yeah. So even like we didn't even do 2 full minutes. Probably it was 1.5 minutes, And
Right.
it already changes the quality of our, emotions, the
Hmm.
quality of our thoughts, the quality of our energy.
Yeah. It's sometimes the simple things that really keep us, from like, I know how to breathe, but we don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And I think anyway, we give it for granted. But in reality, I mean, if you look at all spiritual, schools, they all have a practice of breathing. The practice may be different, of course,
Right.
but all spiritual traditions. And it's not by coincidence,
No.
And in all holy script, spirit is mentioned, as breathing. Like for example, in Italian, in French, and I know that's not doesn't work for English, but to breathe, it's inspirare, or in French,
Oh, yeah.
which is spirit. It means, and it comes from Latin, bring the spirit within.
Mm. I
And
love that.
actually, that's the first thing we do when we come to this world. When we are born, we take our first breath, and the last thing that we do when we leave our body. So breathing is really our full connection with life.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and it
yeah,
heals life. I think, anytime that we can lower our stress levels and awaken the parasympathetic, it just changes our neurochemistry entirely.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally, exactly. So we make smarter decisions. For example, we feel better.
Right.
We actually disconnect from the flight and fight mode,
Mhm.
and so yeah, there are so many benefits. Just taking like a minute of breathing.
Yeah. Can you talk about how it connects also with us just feeling better about ourselves and, really starting a transformation if we are struggling with self-esteem, if we're struggling with, well, self-worth, right?
Yeah.
Um, can you talk a little bit about the connection of how this starts and can really add to transformation? Or,
Yeah. So you mean how this starts connected to the breathing or in general?
well, wherever you want to go, just
Yeah. So, of course, everything is connected to the breathing because the breathing is connected to our emotions. Okay. So,
uh
of course, I mean, this in general, because every emotion, every state of mind has a specific breathing pattern, because we don't breathe the same way when we are, for example, angry, or when we are at peace, when we feel ashamed, or when we feel joyous, for example. We breathe in a different way. So by changing the breath and becoming more aware of the breathing, we also can change the state of mind. So that's the general big connection. But talking in details, or more precisely about self-esteem, um, I think there's a big confusion about self-esteem actually, because maybe because of the word esteem. So we tend to esteem ourselves, and so esteem our value. And of course, again, that's a big that's a big trap, because what do we measure our esteem with? Like some people
other
esteem
people.
themselves, yeah, from other people, like the eyes of other people, the how other people see them, if they are liked or not, or money, for example, career, a big house, designer clothing, and so on and so forth. But actually, it's a big trap, totally big trap, because those are all things that are outside our power zone. I mean, how other people see us, we can't control. We won't be liked by everyone anyway, because there are millions of people in this planet, and it's impossible that they all like us. So,
Right?
and
Like, why
yeah,
would we
so
think? And it's sort of like one little rejection makes like the mind go, nobody likes me. It's like
exactly,
really, it's so.
really nobody. Yeah.
how it starts.
Yeah.
You know? I see.
Yeah. So,
It's
so,
a,
so,
it's
so if we give our esteem, the measurement of our esteem, if we put that into the hands of other people, then we have a problem. Because, of course, I mean, as you said, a rejection will become, oh, I have no value. I mean, if a person rejects us, it's okay. It's his choice, and it's okay. It's his problem, not our problem. So, but even, you know, career, money, and so on and so forth, it's something that can go up one day and go down the other day. So our self-esteem will be like this, right? A roller coaster, and that's a problem. So in reality, self-esteem is nothing. Is nothing of those. It's none of that. It's really self-love. So, and I make it also in my book and in my method, A Whole New Life, I make a big distinction between self-esteem and self-efficacy. I mean, we can be capable, we can be able to, I don't know, be good sellers or write books or have a lot of friends, and that's okay, and it's nice, or make a lot of money, and it's nice. I'm not saying it's not, but that doesn't have to do with, you know, our self-esteem. It's our efficacy in that field. Okay, and we may be I mean, able and good in a field and not good in another field. We may be very talented in a period of our life and not very talented in another period, and that's okay, and that's part of, you know, learning and experiences and making mistake and etc. But our self-esteem is really the honoring of our soul, is really respecting who we truly are, respecting our soul. So honoring our soul, that's our self-esteem. And so we may fail, but we are not a failure. We may make mistakes, but we are not a mistake. We may say or do sometimes selfish things, okay, because it may happen, but we are not selfish. Our soul is not selfish. So it's a difference between the beingness and the doingness.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
in this sense, we may change our doingness. Okay, if I find that I've, you know, made a mistake, or that I've said something ugly to a person, or selfish, I've done something selfish, I can still change my behavior, but that doesn't affect who I am as a person.
Right. And I think it's also important to add is usually when you do those things, those unconscious reactive things, it's because of something that you were taught, and you will keep doing those until you actually break the wheel that, you know, instilled that in you. It might have been from your, you know, your childhood. It might have been from who knows what. But those kind of things, usually when you do hateful things like that out of reactiveness, it's a construct that came to you from, you know, some other person or place or space or lifetime. And all of that is changeable.
Definitely. That's a very important part.
And
You
it's
know, to
awareness, right? Once we're aware of it, we can change any of it.
That's awareness. Yeah, that's awareness, which is actually, I was talking before about the axis of change, the steps of change, and the first step is awareness.
Yeah.
Because if we are not aware, how can we change? So
Right.
awareness is really the door to everything. You know, become aware of my thoughts, of my actions, of my emotions. How am I dealing with my emotions, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, tell us some of the other pieces and some of the big highlights in A Whole New Life, your book. I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah. So in terms of what you just mentioned, we react in a certain way because we were taught, you know, to react in a certain way, because basically we model our parents, we model the adults, the significant adults of our childhood. So I use like a process called the matrix, in which the matrix is basically all the base of all our conditioning beliefs. So it's sort of a map where you can find your conditioning beliefs and just become aware of those and change them. Because the idea is really to look area by area, like what do I think about myself? What do I think about my capacities? What do I think about others? Others are people who I should be afraid of, or others are people who are there to help me. There are some people, and I see that those in my workshops, that really don't trust people. I've learned not to trust people from my parents, for example, whereas other people are more open and they meet someone and their default mode is, okay, let's collaborate, let's become friends, and guess who's living better, guess who has better relationships. So yeah, so there is this part which is a very important part, because then it helps you to become aware of your like your conditioning beliefs. And then the essence of change is, as I was mentioning before, the steps of change. So for example, the first one is definitely awareness. Then the second one is motivation, because I can be aware of something, but if I'm not motivated enough to change that pattern, then I'm not going to change it. Like if I'm in a comfort zone, and it's okay for me to never try new things, because then I never fail. And what motivates me to try new things? Why should I do it?
Right.
So, and of course, the motivation gets triggered, gets better when you think about, your dreams, when you allow yourself to dream, because then you would try new things because you want to manifest your dreams. And
or
also,
you get in so much pain that you're desperate to get out.
Exactly. Or also you are in so much pain, like for my transformation, as when I shared my story, it was pain. I have so much pain that I couldn't take it anymore. So and then when you have gathered enough motivation, then there's the decision part. And decision is really when you decide to make that step. And decision comes from Latin, and in Latin it's decidere, which means to cut. So you have to cut the old, the old life, in a way, the old patterns, and then there's no way back. There's no way back, and there's only going forward. Once you've made that decision, and it's really a strong, decision, then you start creating your new life. Because many people, they don't make that decision unless they are super sure about the creation, about, okay, what can I do? Let me see. But it doesn't work that way. The universe, when you make that decision, then the universe opens the door for you. And so
it's really about being committed to your life.
Committed. Exactly. But until you are committed, you can't wait, because many people wait to make that commitment to see, like when you go into the water, into a cold swimming pool, and you try with your feet to see the temperature of the water, and then you go back, and then you go in again.
Totally.
And many people they manage change in the same way,
Yeah, well, I in certain areas of my life, I'm one of those too. I'm like, if it doesn't work right away, I'm out. It's too much work, And that's such I know that that's so bad to say, but I get it, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other areas of my life that I'm like, I having it. And that's where that commitment to my life happens, and it creates. And it's
I mean, when you're fully committed, when you have there was someone, I don't remember who, said when you have a big enough why, then every how becomes possible,
Right. Right.
then the doors open. And I'm not saying that when the doors open everything is easy, but then you have your way, because you have no way back, so you only go forward. That's the idea. And when the creation starts, and the creation has to be in two ways, like the inner creation, like updating your belief system, your energy level, and so on and so forth, through food, through right nutrition, through like movement and meditation, and so on and so forth. And then also the external creation, which means an action plan, resources you may need, and this is a more left brain activity, but still needed, because otherwise you just
well, people work different ways. I have a client that's really an organic creator, and she'll just be like, oh, I'm doing this, and then she'll go and do this, and do a whole product launch on it after this like one random idea from one of our sessions. So I know that there are different ways that people create, but I kind of
but still she had an idea. So first the internal creation,
linear, as you put it, right?
She needs to go out and do something, otherwise it stays just an idea.
But she doesn't have to think, I need to go do this. It's almost like, and it comes from the whole energetics of who she is. And I'm sure like that. I'm sometimes that, sometimes not. So I think that it's interesting, really getting, like, if people say I'm just not motivated, I think that's the killer of all this, because then there's no juice. But would you say, or how, maybe I should ask this more as a question, that maybe the juice isn't there because that's not what you're called forth to choose. And then you need to just take this meandering path and play with consciousness for a little bit until that spark happens. I totally
agree. Yeah, two thoughts come to mind. So first one is absolutely what you said. Maybe it's not your call. Maybe it's not something that is really important for you. The other thing would possibly be resistance and fear, no, it's not for me, because who am I to yes, it would like to, but stuff, I'm not good enough, etc. So there's just need to be some probing to see which one of the two is.
It's funny, I was on a call with somebody, and she's like, when we say those little words like, I'm not good enough, nobody wants this, she's like, those are like little statements that a collective of people and a collective of energies tell us, and we destroyed and uncreated all of the, matrices and connections that we both had to that, because we were both using those same words. And when I realized that, it's not just me, it actually opens the door to go, wow, what really is possible here then?
Yeah, and this absolutely agree. And the same thing works vice versa, meaning when even one of us, even in one moment of our life, is able to break that or overcome or transform that thoughts, it has a positive impact on the collective of everyone. So and for me it was a nice idea, like I'm not doing it.
Oh, you just muted yourself again or something. Can't hear you.
I'll now, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, so I'll repeat the sentence. So for me, whenever I think I'm like I'm not good enough, and then of course I'm aware, and then I say, no, okay, transform this thought, and the transformation doesn't just benefit me, it benefits, I don't know how many other thousands maybe of people, because it benefits the unconscious collective.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because
I love this. I love this. This is so important.
because everyone is able to transform that, it helps everyone.
Yeah. Well, I want to give them places to go and learn more about you and get free goodies and everything. So any links that you want to send, I'll put it on the post below on the site. And of course, there'll be a link to your book. Is there anything that you want to let people aware of, events or anything like that we should know about?
Well, there's a free gift on my website, luciagiovannini.com, which is a 5-day transformation challenge video series.
Beautiful.
Yeah, which, by the way, is based on the axis of change. So they can take any change they want, from, I don't know, losing weight to changing their job to anything. And they can go through the video series with that change.
Cool.
Yeah, and then that is free. And then the other thing which is something I like so much is our retreat in Thailand and Bali. But yeah, Thailand is awesome, and it has an incredible energy. Just the island of Phuket itself has a strong energy, and the work we do there with monks, we do breath work on a little island off Phuket where turtles come to lay their eggs. And so we do dry breath work, but we also do water breath work there. And the energy is so huge that, I mean, it infuses people, goals with tremendous energy.
Wow.
So
wow. Yeah. I love that. Infuse your goals with tremendous energy.
Yeah. So that is, and we do it once a year at the end of February.
Okay, fabulous. And more details, I'm sure, when they get
on the website. Yeah,
I can get more details. Well, thank you so much. This has been fun and enlightening.
Thank you. It has been fun and enlightening for me as well.
Great.